That's pretty much the definitions. Now, for a fixed rate bond, things like face value, maturity, and coupon rate are fixed when the bond is issued, and they do not change during the life of the bond because they determine, put together a series of promised cash flows. Okay. Uh, Face value, coupon rate, and maturity dates are set at the issue time and do not change for fixed rate bonds. In this class, we will only deal with fixed rate bonds, so you don't have to worry about them. What was your name? Gibbons. I had to reduce the brightness on my screen, so my eyes are not doing that well. I forgot to bring my charger, but thankfully this new computer has better battery life. There are bonds called variable rate bonds. In fact, that's pretty common in European bond market, especially for corporate bonds. The rate typically is a certain reference rate plus a spread. In the old days when LIBOR was a thing, LIBOR was kind of a short-term reference rate, which is short for London Interbank Offered Rate. Because of some shenanigans, that doesn't exist anymore, but there are other ones. For example, in the US, a lot of variable rate bonds are issued as prime plus something. Prime rate is the rate the banks offer to their best clients for loans, which is typically 3% plus above the upper end of the Fed target rate. Not always, but almost always. So currently it's 8.5. So if the Fed cuts rates, prime rate is going to come too. I have home equity loans, two of them. They're both based on prime. One of them prime -1, the other is prime +1. So I'm paying 7.5 on one, 9.5 on the other. If Fed cuts the rates, it's going to come down. When I first took them, the rates were very low. In fact, there was a floor on those. Prime -1, I had to pay 4, even though prime -1 would have made at that point 325, 225. And there are also bonds called Treasury inflation protected bonds. They're also known as TIPS. They're completely different, even though I'm not going to hold you responsible for valuation of those. I'm kind of going to give you an idea about how they're valued. Because if you're worried about inflation, buy TIPS instead of regular bonds. So whatever the inflation is there, on top of inflation, it pays you a certain little premium. For example, let's find out where the current TIPS are trading. So 10-year TIPS yield is 175. That means you make 175 over and above the inflation. They actually index your face value by inflation. So if this year inflation was 10%, next year your coupon is, and let's say face value was 10,000, next year face value is going to be 11,000. because it's going to be increased by the inflation amount. And 30 years, 10 years from now, let's say accumulated inflation was 100%. Prices doubled in 10 years. Then your face value is going to be 20,000. So your last payment is going to be 20,000. But if you work the whole thing out, it's as if you're getting paid in real terms. That means you're compensated for any inflation that may have happened. And oddly enough, for some stupid reason, there was negative inflation during the life of the bond. Treasury actually does not take your money. It's as if there was zero inflation and you're going to be paid. But unlike, unless you were in Japan in 90s, that never happened. Or the Great Depression times. And at that time, tips didn't exist to begin with. I can't even see my mouse thingy. All right. Let's think about, just to see the promised cash flows. Every coupon period, you get the coupon amounts. And the last coupon period, which is on the maturity date, you get the last coupon plus the face value. So to make things simple, let's think about a 2 years, 12.5% semi-annual bond with face value 10,000. Typically, U.S. Treasuries have denominations of 1,000 face value or more. 1,000 face value. I'm using 10,000 because I can do the mental arithmetic quickly. Other than that, it doesn't make any difference. In fact, a lot of times when you see the quotes of the prices, they assume a face value of $100. I mean, first things first. How many coupons this bond will have? It's a 2-year semi-annual bond. The total number of coupons. 4, because you get 2 every year, and it's a 2-year bond. Okay. 2 times 2, which is the coupon frequency. What is the coupon amount? 12.5% bond. That means you get 12.5% of the face value on a given year or 12-month period. But there are 2 coupons per year. So what will you get as coupons every year from this bond? I have entered the formula up there, so you can use that. $1,250. That would be the annual coupons, not individual coupons. So every year you get 12.5% of 10,000, which is $1,250. But there are 2 of them, so you need to divide it by 2. Well, we have our formula anyway. Face value times coupon rate divided by coupon frequency. $10,000 times 12.5% divided by 2 equals So each coupon is going to be 625. That means here is the promised cash flow from this bond. And I use the term promised on purpose because technically speaking, there is no guarantee that you will get that. For all likelihood, if it is the US Treasury that issued this bond, you will get it. But if this was a bond issued by a triple B rated company, there is some chance that you may not be getting. Yes. No, it's a promise, knowing that they would not be able to pay it. You bought that bond. Obviously, if they can't make those payments, either they themselves are going to declare bankruptcy, or the creditors to the firm can ask a judge to declare him bankrupt. Once the firm has declared bankruptcy, either willingly or not, the legal process goes in. Either there's a settlement between the creditors and the firm, or the assets of the firm are liquidated. And given the seniority of the creditors, everybody gets something. If there is anything left, shareholders get it. But I don't remember any company where shareholders got anything other than just loose change after all the creditors were paid. So there's a promise, but